Hello guys and welcome to the Russian Football News Predictions League preview for round 19. Only 2 weeks to go until the winter break. So things are getting interesting. Last weekend we had, of course, Spartak. Well, I say last weekend, on Monday we had Spartak against Zenit. Absolutely cracking game. Spartak winning 3-1. Annoyingly, Mario Pasalic's 98th minute goal, making it 3-1, robbed me of a perfect score, as I know it did a couple of other people too. Fernando's red card, plenty of bookings, and an absolutely stunning second goal from Luis Adriano. Lots of one-touch football in the build-up. If you haven't seen it already, make sure you get on YouTube, Twitter, wherever it is, get a replay of that. The second goal for 2-0. Brilliant stuff. Anyhow, what it means is Lokomotiv are 6 points clear. They are guaranteed to finish this part of the season top of the table, regardless of what happens for the next 2 weeks, because they have 12 wins. Don't forget, number of wins is the first separating factor. They have 12 wins, and Zenit and CSKA, well, and Krasnodar for that matter, are on 9 points. There's 6 points between Loko and Zenit. Running into the European places, though, it's getting tight. Zenit on 33, CSKA on 32, Spartak on 31, Krasnodar on 30, and Krasnodar in the last Europa League playoff space. So, plenty to play for. So, let's crack on, shall we? Week 19. First up, we have CSKA Moscow against Tosno. Now, CSKA, they have had, to be fair, a good very brief recent run of form. They came away with a 4-2 win 2 weeks ago in the Far East against SKA Khabarovsk. Pardon me. And last week they did the job. 1-0 away to Rubin Kazan. 2 away games on the road in a row. Sorry. So they're in good form, up into third at the moment. Tosno, well, they had that hammering 5-0 against Zenit 2 weeks ago. Last week, they were at home to Arsenal Tula. They were behind, heading into the last quarter of an hour or so, and then Yevgeny Markov hat-trick in 10 minutes. Pulled it back to 3-2. What a thriller. Of course, guess who predicted 0-0? So anyhow, Tosno winning. They are still, though, in the relegation zone. And away from home, unfortunately, it's not pretty for Tosno. I say not pretty. They have had 3 wins out of 8, which is not bad, actually. But they've only scored 6 goals, one of the lowest goal tallies in the league. CSKA, with Pontus Wernbloom playing up front, seem to have found their perfect striker, so they're on good form. I predict a win for CSKA in this one. Scoreline, I see them scoring a couple. I'm going to go for 2-0 to CSKA against Tosno. Okay, moving on. Next up, we have Arsenal Tula hosting Spartak Moscow. Both games on Friday, by the way. So get your predictions in nice and early, because this will be a 4:30 UK kickoff. So if you're at work, you don't want to leave it till Friday to do it. So get them in quick. Arsenal last weekend, well, like we just said, they lost to Tosno, and they are still mid-table. They're still only 1 point off 6th at the moment, with Terek Grozny and Akhmat Grozny, bloody hell, still making that slip up. Arsenal have had an excellent run of form recently. That defeat to Tosno was a bit of a shock. They did the hard work getting into the lead twice. Spartak, well, you can't get much better for a morale-boosting preparation for this than beating Zenit. And Zenit were no pushovers. Spartak played brilliantly to a game plan, and their attacking players did the job. So you've got to say really that Spartak are favourites for this one, even though Arsenal are very strong at home. At home, Arsenal, they've only lost twice all season. They've only conceded 5 goals, which is the lowest in the entire league, lower than Lokomotiv, who are 6 points clear at the top of the table. But this is Spartak, and Arsenal have just had that disappointment of losing, having their victory stolen away from them by Zhenya Markov last week. So I'm going to go for a Spartak win. I'm not going to go for a high-scoring one, though, because, of course, they have European commitments away to Liverpool coming up fairly soon as well. So I'm going to go for 1-0 to Spartak away from home. Huge win that would be as well. Okay, Zenit at home to Ural up next. This is on Saturday. Zenit's run of form, 1 win in the last 7 games, I believe it is. It must be one of the worst runs of form they've had in decades. Certainly, it was the longest winless run in over a decade before their 5-0 win over Tosnel 2 weeks ago. But that defeat to Spartak, that's going to be a crushing one. Knowing that they will not be top of the table under any circumstances coming into the start of the spring season, they'll be looking out for revenge. Ural actually are on a bit of a slide. They've lost the last 3 now, and they've lost their unbeaten home record as well. It's unlikely that Gregor Balajic will be available, and he's been very important at the back. Nikita Chornov on loan from Tisca has actually been playing very well for the youngster. It looks likely that, I'm not going to say his first name, Adoyan, Armenian centre-back for Ural, will play. Between them, they have shown just ever so slightly moments of uncertainty. So, Zenit at home, I have to back them to win. I know everybody has lost prediction points by backing Zenit in the last few weeks. Not everybody has, but a lot of people have, simply because of who they are, the attacking potential they permanently have, regardless of their form. I really do think they will win this one, though. Pains me to say it, but I do think they're going to come out on top. Ural away from home are notoriously weak. The 2 wins they've had were both secured in the last 5 minutes of games. And they very rarely score more than 1, even at home. So, Zenit's scoreline, I'm gonna say 3-1. I think Ural will get a goal, but Zenit, they do have goals in them. And a lot of comments on social media I've noticed are saying Zenit have been terrible all season, which is just the utter load of rubbish I've ever read in my life. They have been poor by their standards in results in recent weeks, but not all of those poor results have actually been poor performances for the entire 90 minutes. Against Spartak, they pushed Spartak for large parts of the game, but just didn't have enough. Spartak simply were the better side. Just an idiot would write Zenit off. So I do think they're going to win. I'm going for 3-1. Dynamo against Rostov. Well, Dynamo Moscow, relegation playoff zone. Rostov have been, relatively speaking, in free fall in recent weeks, but Rostov did finally get a win, their first in a long time, against Anzhi at the weekend. Dynamo themselves, they lost away to Amkar Perm. If you concede a goal to Amkar, that's bad enough. If you concede twice, that's just horrific. We all know how Amkar struggle with goals. Switch around where they're playing Dynamo at home, Rostov away. How does that change things? Well, Rostov actually are fairly solid on the road. They've got more points away from home than they have at home. They've only conceded 8 away from home, which is one of the best away defensive records. And Dynamo at home, well, they're also very hard to beat too. They have the second best defensive record, joint second best. Only 6 goals conceded in 9 games. They've only lost twice at home, but they have also only won twice. So what do we see? Well, I think Dynamo are in that territory now where we are. It sounds strange. We're getting towards the end of the season in the fact that we're past halfway already. Mathematically, we're towards the end of the season. And only 12 games left. So literally every point matters. Dynamo are level on points with Anzhi Makhachkala at the moment. Anzhi are in the automatic relegation places. Dynamo in 14th are purely... by the skin of their teeth, So they're going to have to... They're going to have to take everything they can get. And a point at home to Rostov may not sound very thrilling, but that's going to be worth a lot more than you think. So I'm going to go for a draw. It's not thrilling, but it's just what I see happening. I'm going to go for 1-1 because I've been caught out by going for 0-0 draws. and goals have been scored. I bet you anything it will end up being 0-0 at this rate. But I'm going to go for 1-1. Bukharov did score twice at the weekend, so bit of confidence for the striker. It's always a good thing. League leaders Lokomotiv against home to Rubin Kazan. Well, Rubin's struggles have been well documented for some time. Lokomotiv, they don't have any new injury worries. They still have Ari, Vedran Choluka and Guilherme are all out. But nobody new other than that. Vladimir Granat is suspended for Rubin for collecting yellow cards, so that's also another point in Lokomotiv's favour. Rubin, well, they've scored... they've only scored 3 in the last 9 games. I mean, that's just horrific. That's worse than Amkar PM form. And I have to be honest, I'm not entirely sure why they're struggling quite so badly when they do have some very good attacking options there. Maxim Lestian, he has scored this season at least. They still have Sardar Azmoun, but for some reason I'm surprised how little Berdiev is playing him. I really thought when Jonatas left that Azmoun would just simply step into his shoes. Not exactly the same player, but certainly capable of being a physical presence, poacher up front. Anyhow, it is what it is. I can't see anything other than a Lokomotiv win here. Scoreline, I'm going to go for 2-0. Lokomotiv don't need to bust a blood vessel here. They just simply need to get the job done, and I think that's what they'll do. Simple as that. Rubin may not score many. They don't concede a lot either. They actually, bizarrely, have a positive goal difference, despite being on the cusp of the relegation playoff zone, which tells its own story. Anyhow, 2-0 to Loco is my prediction there. Moving on, Ufa at home to Amkar PM. This has got to be one of the less inspiring games of the weekend. Ufa, well, under Sergei Semak, they're a very, very difficult side to beat. So, how do we see this one going? Ufa, well, they don't score many. They've got the fewest goals scored in the top half of the table, only 17 in 18 games. And they have conceded a fairly average amount, 21 in 18 games, so it doesn't look that spectacular. But all their success is built on their home form. Last weekend, they lost away to Akhmat Grozny. Quite an important result, actually, because that could have put Ufa only 3 points behind the Europa League places. As it is, they are now 6 points behind, and they can't really afford to give away any more wins between now and the end of the season if they have any hopes of sneaking into Europe. So, I'm going to have to hurry up here, actually. How do we see this one going? Amkar, like I say, they won at home last weekend, but away from home, they actually are reasonably solid, but they're just so desperately uninspiring. I think Ufa will do the job. I'm not going to go any more than 1-0 because both sides are fairly goal shy. 1-0 to Ufa. Okay. Now, last 2 games, we have Krasnodar at home to Akhmat. Now, Krasnodar last weekend, I was in Yekaterinburg to watch them win 1-0. It wasn't sort of thrilling end-to-end football, but it was very efficient professional football. Charles Cabaret was excellent in midfield, mopping up, and Smolov caused problems, was on the end of Victor Klassen's cross. It was really a defensive cock-up, really, a lack of marking, but still, they did get behind the defence. And at home, Akhmat, well, last weekend, they did get the win against Ufa. They are up to 6th, and they're only 5 points behind, 1 place behind Krasnodar. But on the road, they've only won twice. I think Krasnodar will win this one, and I'm going to go for 2 goals. I've been a bit boring and conservative with my scoreline predictions. Akhmat, I don't see scoring, so I'm going to go for 2-0. Okay, and finally we have SKA Khabarovsk take on Anzhi away. This is, pardon me, a bottom of the table clash. This is critical for SKA Khabarovsk because they are 4 points adrift of Anzhi. Anzhi in 15th, SKA in 16th. Unfortunately for SKA, away from home, they are terrible. Only 2 goals scored. They are the only side not to have won away from home. Anzhi, well, they're not blowing teams away, but they have won 3 times. I think Anzhi are going to win this one. unfortunately. I think Scar play very entertaining football at home, but away they are not up to much. So I'm going to go for a 1-0 win to Anchi. Best of luck, guys, and don't forget, join us on Friday for the World Cup draw live blog on RussianFootballNews.com. Until then, bye-bye.